Hello and welcome to another video. This is going to include some discussion about correlation. We mainly is going to discuss regression. We'll be defining regression soon, and it's going to include also single regression and multiple regression. Let's start with taking each variable individually. If you notice, the quantity sold is going to be acting as the y or the dependent variable versus the price as an independent variable, also advertising as an independent variable. We're going to find the relationship between the price and the quantity sold. The quantity sold is determined by the price and also determined by the advertisement. We could take each one of those individually. That's what I'm going to do first, and then we're going to combine them together. But before we do the regression and build our own model that will predict different values, we're going to first of all go ahead and add another, uh, insert another. This is, let's go ahead and call it y, and this is x1, and this is x2. All right. Also, I want to thank the website that I got this data from. It's www.excel-easy.com. Anyway, that's what we're going to start with. I wanted to go ahead and first of all do everything manually. So we're going to show you first how to get the slope and the intercept and build the equation. Also do the correlation manually. Then we're going to do it graphically, and also we're going to do the quantity sold with the advertising manually and graphically. Then we're going to do the regression, individual regression or single regression with each variable. Then we're going to do the multi-regression. So be patient with me. It's going to be a long video, but it's worth it. Really, it does. Let's first of all start with the quantity sold. This is Y, quantity sold. And we're going to look at the price, in also the price here. Let's go ahead and put the advertising as well. And the advertising. All right. So, if we take a look at those are three variables that I'm concerned with. As I said, this is the dependent variable. This is the first independent variable. This is going to be the second independent variable. Let's go ahead and take a look at the slope for the price between these two first. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and take the slope. Okay. Let's not think about the advertising at this moment. Slope is going to be between the y values. This is the y value. Don't include the label with the function. Later we will be doing this when we use a different approach to how we should be doing the regression. So don't confuse that. Sometimes we do select the label, sometimes we should not. And here we go. Slope, notice it is going to be a negative value, indicating that the relationship between the two variable quantity sold and the price is negative due to the fact that the slope is negative, meaning that's an inverse relationship between the two. So it is, and I'm going to go ahead and round the value to 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. I'm going to go ahead and do the intercept between the quantity sold and the price. And also we're going to use a function called intercept, very similar to the feeding or the giving the values. Give the y value first, then we're going to go ahead and do the x value, and I'm going to be able to see the intercept. As you notice, I'm going to go ahead and grab the format from here to make it bigger, and I could build the y or the equation. It's going to be quantity sold is going to be equal to minus 823.53 multiplied by the price, whatever the price, plus the 9,323.53. Okay. Now we could go ahead and do the correlation to see how much the relationship between the price and the quantity sold. Correlation, and there is a function called, of course, any function that has to be used in Excel, we start with the equal sign. So it's CORREL. and it's going to ask us, the order doesn't matter, but this be consistent with how we feed those functions. We're going to do y, and also we're going to do the x's here, or the independent variable. And notice it's great to see that the, the correlation is strong, and it's minus 0.81. Whether it's negative or positive, it's closer to -1 or 1, and indicate a strong relationship between the two variables. In this case, 0.81 is really a decent one, but it's not as strong as having a 1. And now let's go ahead and do the advertisement. The advertisement that we're going to find the slope, and we're going to go ahead and use the word slope here, the function slope. And again, we're going to go ahead and do this. Of course, we're going to skip over the price and choose the advertising. And as you notice here, it's going to be 0.57. I could steal the format from this cell and click on the format painter. And notice it's going to be 0.57. The same thing for the intercept. And we're going to also take the y here, then comma, and skip over that price with advertisement. And notice here we're going to go ahead and get the intercept to be 5,697.291. And again, I will go ahead and do the correlation between these two. And we're going to go ahead and get the y's, comma, the x's, the advertisement, or the advertising here, and it's going to be this. Of course, I could go ahead and do the same format, not enough space width actually, and here we go. And notice is the correlation 0.54 is not that strong, but it's a positive one, meaning the more advertising we spend, the higher is going to be the quantities sold. It's not strong, but it's there. And we're going to go ahead and do the graphic now. I'm going to do the graphic between the quantity sold and the price and get the equation directly from the graph if you need to know this. And the same thing, we're going to do that between the quantity sold and as well as the advertising. So let's go ahead and start. First of all, in order to avoid any mistake with the graph, if you wanted to do it directly without having any problem, it's best to always have the y to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one here and put it really here. So to avoid any mistake, because you want it to have the y in the vertical axis of the notice here. So I moved it because if you put y to the left of the axis, it's going to give you the wrong type of format graph. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and start with this, with the price. Okay, actually just the price. Don't select the x's and y's. This is for more information. And select this. Maybe this should be done as dollar figure. I'm going to take the decimal digit to the right of the decimal points. Again, back to the selecting of the price, and I'm holding the control key. Selecting the quantity sold, both of them are selected. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to the insert, going to the scattered, and choose the scattered in this case between the two. Notice here, and now we're going to go ahead and get to the trend line, linear trend line, and they're close to the trend line, and I'll go ahead and show you the actual equation here directly, which is going to be similar to exactly what we found. If I go ahead and take this and go back to this one and make it a little bit larger for just our own view. The only thing that I have to take the square root of r, and the square root of r is going to be square root of r squared in order to get the correlation, which is 0.6536. We should get 0.8. In this case, we given it as positive. It doesn't matter. It just indicates the strength of the relationship. So if you notice between this one here and this one here, they're very much the same. So this is graphically, as you notice, and I'm going to go ahead and move it right here. Maybe scroll a little bit, and I want to go ahead and do the relationship, the graph between the advertising and also the quantity sold. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Let's go to the insert, get the scattered. I'm going to click on this guy here. It's a little bit, let's go ahead and get the trend line. Here we go. And let's go linear, go to the layout, get that outline number 9, and you will see this is what we got. Very similar if we did it manually. The only thing I have to do now is to take the square root of r square, and let me go ahead and make this big. Actually, let me go ahead and steal that directly from here so I get the same exact size and look for it. And here we go. So this is should be able to do that, except the fact that we're going to see the correlation for the between the quantity sold in the advertisement. It's going to be the square root of 0.0. It's not a very strong relationship, but at least it is above 0.5. So this is the relationship. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and change this, and I don't see the function bar. I'm going to go to the view. Formal bar is here, actually checked, but it's too big here for me. So I'm going to go ahead and squeeze it a little bit or leave it like it is now. So I'm going to write this quantity sold and price. See this? And this one here, I'm going to click on it. I'm going to say quantity sold and advertising. Advertising. All right, so this is basically, and also you could take this one here and put here our quantity sold. And you could go ahead and scroll down a little bit here. This is should be, if you want to do it this way, we're going to say here the price. And this is basically the advertising. Here we go. Okay, go ahead and this one here is the quantity sold. So this is done very well graphically, and also we did it manually. So we need to know this much. I'm going to go ahead and do the correlation, and I'm going to first of all, I could do it right here. The very first thing that I wanted to do for the correlation is to go to the file and make sure that I'm clicking on the option and make sure that the add-in is clicked on and go in order for me to show that the analysis toolback is checked. So I'm going to say, okay, let me go ahead and do the magnifier one more time. Maybe you will be able to see things better this way. Let's see things better this way. So again, I'm going to go ahead and show you one more time what I did with the add-on. So it's option here. Okay, my recorder is hiding some of the options. Add in. I'm going to click on go, make sure that the analysis toolback is checked. And now I could go to the data menu ribbon. Let me go ahead and minimize the magnifier here. And notice that I have the tool analysis right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first of all make sure that when I clicked on it, looking for the regression. So I'm going to do 2 regression. The first regression is going to be between the price and the quantity sold, and the second between the advertisement and the quantity sold. And then later we're going to do the quantity sold in both the price and the advertising. So let's go ahead and get regression. First of all, let's go ahead and do a single regression. The first thing I wanted the Y range, which is with the label this time, with the label, because I'm going to check the label right here. Okay, so I'm telling it I'm going to go ahead and get the price with the label as well, and make sure that we're going to get an output. I'm going to scroll this down a little bit. You know, let me go ahead and scroll it down. Well, let me go ahead and do it in a way that I could see it. And let's go ahead and put it here. Okay. Okay, so I could scroll now to show you what I got here. First of all, let's go ahead and click between the two to enlarge it. We have 7 observation, and we have the intercept as we did it earlier, and we have the price. The correlation is very easy. If I wanted to go ahead and find the equation, it's very easy to tell me that I could predict a price in the future, or come up with a price in order to predict the quantity sold. I could use that as an equation that I created earlier, but I could go ahead and do it here. I say here quantity sold is going to be, instead of doing it this way, I'm going to show you that's quantity sold, and I use it as actually as a calculated field. So I'm going to go ahead and put this is basically the slope multiplied by a value that I'm going to choose, and I'm going to put it right here. This is the value that I'm going to put for the price that I'm trying to predict, plus the intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and, before I lose, I will say here the price right here, and I'm going to go ahead and make the price the color here. So I could put here the price. If I put the price here, let's say instead of any price, let's say 6, it's going to be smaller as a result because the price has a negative or inverse relationship. Notice it's going to make it a smaller. If the price was 0.5, it's going to make it a larger amount because, again, the higher the price, the lower the quantity sold. The lower the price, the higher the quantity sold. It's an inverse relationship, right? Basically, I hope I said that correctly. Now what are we going to do? We're going to go ahead and do the same thing with. I'm going to go ahead and see if I could take that to the next. It's getting crowded here, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and let's go to another sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and copy it right here. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. All right, so the same thing, we're going to go ahead and do the data analysis for the regression, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the regression, and we're going to go ahead and do the, first of all, the Y, still the same Y. However, the X is going to be the advertising, and I could go ahead and change where I want to show the result. I'll show it right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do it, and notice that again, I could build the model directly here. If I wanted to put, let's say here, the advertising as, I could actually even steal the word from here. So equal, notice here, and I could say here the quantity sold, and I could put that value for the advertisement here. So I'll go ahead and select that one here, and create the equation directly here. So it's going to be this one here multiplied by whatever advertisement value I'm going to put, plus, of course, the intercept. So notice here, because the relationship between the advertising and the quantity sold is positive, so it's going to be the higher the advertisement, the higher is the quantity sold. So if I put here, let's say $1,000, it's going to give me, it's a good amount, but what about if I change this to 10,000? So it's going to actually raise it a little bit. And notice here, it changes from 6,000 to 11,000. So the relationship between the advertising and the quantity sold is a positive relationship. The higher one is the better the quantity sold. The higher the advertising is, the higher the quantity sold. So let's go ahead and do a multi-regression. Multi-regression. I'm going to go ahead and show you how we're going to do that. I could go ahead and put it right here, somewhere. All right, let's go ahead and first of all, when we do the regression with the data, instead of, it's similar to what we just did, except the fact that we're going to choose, instead of the Y stays the same, instead of the advertising by itself, I'm going to put the price in the advertising, resulting into multi-regression in this case. And I could go ahead and choose another cell. Let's put it this one here. All right. or here rather. And I'm going to go ahead and keep the label, of course. And let's go ahead and see what happens with our calculation. This is a little bit more involved because now we have both. We have both the intercept and we have the price in the advertisement. I could do it all at once, and I could go ahead and build now. The quantity sold is here. Okay, and I could go ahead and say the advertisement, the price. Let's go ahead and put the price here. And of course, we could put the advertising here, and we put the price right here. Let me go ahead and do it here. And this is also the advertisement here. So the quantity sold will be like here. So it's going to be, first of all, that intercept for the price multiplied by whatever I put in the price here, plus the coefficient for the advertisement multiplied by whatever I put here for the advertisement, plus the intercept for both, which is going to be right here. And here we go. So this is the intercept because the price at this moment is 0 and the advertisement is 0. If I put the price to be a little bit low, which is to my advantage, like quantity sold, and I put the 10,000, which is a very high advertising, notice how much is the quantity sold is going to be. If I change the price to a higher price than I have ever seen in the model, in the observed data, it's going to be 6, let's say here, 6, and I'm going to lower the advertisement to 1,000. Notice that my quantity sold is really lower because the price is too high and the advertising is also low, resulting into quantity sold. This is how we build a model. Regression, again, is to predict a value outside of those values that we observed in our study, the one that I have here. So you could come up with something different. You see, if you wanted to say, what about if my price was 6? And what about if my advertisement was $10,000 or $3,500 or $410? Then I could go ahead and build that through this model and enter those values and enter it dynamically. So a little bit learning about Excel will come a really long way. So take your time to practice this and repeat everything you have seen in order to learn it and learn it correctly. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's a long video, but really worth it and worth the learning that you're going to get out of it. But nothing can be obtained or learned unless you do the practice.